This piece is called The Darkening. It's a sister piece to an earlier tower called The Lightning. The Lightning was mostly about my mum and dad, their life during the war and after. This one is much more personal, and it's about my childhood and going up into adolescence. And that's why I've called it The Darkening, because as we know, adolescence is very difficult for kids, and especially if you're same-sex attracted. I was a child of the 60s, and I don't think that the sexes were as polarised in the 60s as they are today. Our parents had abandoned this idea of pink for girls and blue for boys that we have today. And me and my friends, we were all very much tomboys and rough and tumble. My first love was Lady Penelope on Thunderbirds. I used to pretend I was Gordon in Thunderbird 4, and I would save her life every evening. As I got a bit older, I grew out of puppets and I fell in love with Diane on Crossroads. This was a soap opera we had in Britain. It was on in the afternoon in the 60s. In fact, when I went to primary school, the first day, I didn't cry. All the other kids were crying to leave their mums. But in the afternoon, the teacher's reading us this story, and I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to miss Crossroads. And then I started bawling. Here's the piece, Going Up into the Dark, the Adolescence. The piece is full of things from my childhood and images of me and pictures that resonate with that time for me. I was obsessed with film. In here we have a picture of Jean Harlow, who I adored. And here is James Cagney, who I really wanted to be. And I must have looked so funny as a kid, because I'd take the dog out and I'd try and do this James Cagney walk that I'd seen on the afternoon matinee. But eventually I grew out of this desire to be a man, to be a boy, and realised when I started finding out what it was, that I was a lesbian. One of my favourite books at that time was Return to Peyton Place, which of course has some same-sex women going on in there. And here's me and my friend Frank, who's a very effeminate homosexual, who had such an amazing sense of humour, and people would take the piss out of him and he would give them such short shrift and take the piss right back till they gave it up. He went on to be quite a famous fashion designer in Japan and sadly died of AIDS. As I became a teenager, I was searching for films that had any kind of lesbian inferences going on. And one of my favourites, it still is today, is The Killing of Sister George. And there's a picture of Beryl Reid with two nuns in there. Not a very positive depiction of a lesbian, but nevertheless a really great film. And oh, there's Diane on Crossroads hidden away behind her. When I was a child, I was really creative and I spent a lot of time making things, and I loved these kind of games we had with the beautiful illustrations, which that's what I wanted to do when I grew up, things like that. And I think it was an escape from childhood that wasn't particularly happy. I've always used art as a way of escaping and going off into my own little world. And it's fortunate today that, you know, I'm a very happy lesbian. I've been with my partner for 41 years. And here I am, I'm able to make these things day in, day out.